Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Evil Dead the game. I play it on the PS5, it's also available on everything else. So PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and PC. So let's get into it. First off, story isn't really the big deal. You can play some missions that have a story element, but it's really just kind of reliving the Evil Dead movies and adding to that a little bit. Otherwise, this is really focused on the co-op and multiplayer elements of the game. Now let's get into the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is the music is good. I actually really thought the music worked very well in this game, as well as I think the voiceover work was well done, and I think the sound effects actually, for the most part, are very good. I think they sound good, but I do think the mixing is kind of shit, because there were definitely times when I was playing and I knew there were enemies around, but you couldn't tell where they were coming from because there was just too much sound. And while the sound effects are all of a good quality and they all fit the actions and things in the world and all of that, but determining where an enemy is coming from based on sound is really unneededly difficult and poorly done. Let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is a asymmetric multiplayer game. There are 4 survivors, and there is one bad guy, Kandarian Demon. There we go. The survivors are Ash and some other characters, and their goal is to essentially banish the evil, which they do by completing certain objectives and killing as many deadites and the like along the way. Whereas when you're playing as the Kandarian Demons, you float around in like first person, and I gotta say, didn't love that, and I'll get into that in a bit. But you are basically placing enemies, setting traps, trying to prevent them, and I personally found it was fairly unbalanced. There were very few times, or at least in my experience, where the survivors didn't win. 90% of the time that I actually got to play online was as a Kandarian Demon, because it was like the only thing I could get into a match with. I played exactly one survivor match the entire time, not by choice, but because multiple times, I mean, we're talking dozens of times, I would get booted for ridiculous reasons. There was a stretch where it couldn't find a server, it said there weren't enough servers, and then there was a stretch where like somebody would leave. One person would leave from the lobby and it would close the entire lobby, which is stupid when if you're in the game and somebody leaves, it just keeps going. So that is some shit they really need to sort out. So I got tired of dealing with that after a while and just started playing as the Kandarian Demon, at which point I felt it was a fairly unbalanced system. The survivors generally won because they have a lot more options than you do. While you can do a bunch of things, they can split up, which limits you. You're also limited as the Kandarian Demon by you have to gather these soul points, and there are certain times where they will regenerate for you, but if you're just gathering them, that can be a very slow process. There might not be enough around to gather. There were definitely areas where I could set up, 15 traps, but there wasn't enough of that energy to gather to set up those traps or to launch an attack against the survivors. And for the survivors' first 3 objectives, which is collecting these map pieces, you really can't find them unless they do something that allows you to see them on the map momentarily. So it is difficult in that time. You can't really harass them unless you're lucky enough to stumble upon them, which I was every now and then, but it wasn't great. That being said, I did win some matches, but generally speaking, it felt very unbalanced. And as I said, I did get to play like a match as the survivors, and it went well. We actually did pretty well, and it felt a little easier than it probably should have. You'll see in this, the majority of my footage is playing through as Ash in one of the missions, because that was really the only time I got to play as one of the survivor type characters. But you can also play the multiplayer mode solo with AIs controlling the other survivors, which is fair enough. It works well, but that's not really the point of this game. Let's get into the controls, and my first complaint will be with the Kandarian Demon. When you're floating around, which is what you do, you're not really in control of a being. You float around, and it's really floaty, and it's really fast, so it just doesn't blend well, and it gets a little hard to control your character. Like, getting in and out of a house if you're trying to get after the survivors in there is very difficult due to the controls. So that definitely needs some work. Whereas for the survivors, the running, shooting, the attacking, all of that, I felt worked very well. I didn't have any real complaints with that. And when I was playing as the Kandarian Demon, when I would take on a physical form, when I would possess, a deadite or something, the controls were fine. Now let's get into the graphics and visuals, and the first thing I'm going to say is I think they did a really good job with the demons and the deadites and all of that. They really do fit within the game and the Evil Dead world. Just the designs are really phenomenal, seeing, evil Ash brought to life and just the other deadites and characters. I think they did awesome with that. Seeing Ash translated into this, like regular Survivor Ash, I thought was well done. I like the characters that they brought into the game. I think they fit with the design, and again, they fit with the whole Evil Dead motif. As for the maps, I overall liked them, although I think they're kind of generic in coloring. They're either a whole lot of brown or a whole lot of gray, so it's a little monotonous at times. But like the buildings and the forest, I think that's all well designed, and I think the maps are pretty cool looking. I like that they're large enough that sometimes you need a vehicle to get around, or if you're the Kandarian Demon, you move very quickly so you can move around easily. I think the special effects and the weapons and everything, I think that's pretty cool and pretty well done. So visually, I gotta say, I think this game actually really captures the Evil Dead feel, and I think they did well there. But to wrap this up, overall, I really lost interest in this game pretty quickly with the server issues, with the issues in matchmaking. Where it is right now, it's really not worth buying. And there's obviously like balancing issues that need to get sorted out. And none of that is too surprising to me because this kind of game, that's going to happen early on. But that's also a problem because then it makes it hard to recommend people go out and pick up this game. By the time it is worth picking up, you know, will it have just died off already? So overall, I gotta say that as an asymmetric multiplayer, there's other games I enjoy more, and I gotta say, I really don't recommend it, especially right now, so it's kind of a pain. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, have you watched all the Evil Dead movies? Not that there's a ton of them. I never watched the show, I probably should. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one. And oh shit, I Austin Powers it.